Hello, I'm Brian Fox. Welcome to I Hate Rock Music, and I'm back to the early 70s bands. And as I mentioned in a couple of these other videos, I don't really rate them the same way a lot of people do. For example, the band I'm going to talk about next, Swamp Gas. A lot of reviewers say it's kind of mediocre. There's not that much going on. And I just disagree. They kind of said the same thing about Truck and some of these other bands, and I just don't hold them to the same standards. Yeah, they're not Led Zeppelin, they're not Black Sabbath, but they've got their own thing and they do it really well. And I've learned to accept them for who they are and that they have their own voice and that they do really make good records. And a lot of times these bands only manage to get out one album. Swamp Gas and Truck are bands that only manage to get one album. And I think if they'd been able to, given the opportunity to progress, they would have been full of surprises. And we've seen that before when a band's given a chance to develop and put out more than one album. We can hear progression, and they generally do get better. But I have no issues with Swamp Gas. I think some of the descriptions are off. I don't find them to be a rural band with leanings towards Grateful Dead or anything like that, and I don't find the material mediocre at all. It's definitely a little more interesting and a little oblique and strange in some respects. And there are some rural elements, but the band is so good they really pull it off, and their ballads are really excellent. But as I mentioned on other records like this, they only did a couple of ballads. They're extremely well done, but the hard rock stuff is really great. And in this case, it's because they had a stunning guitar player, Baird Hersey. I didn't really know that much about him. He came out um, as a jazz guitar player a few years after this, and it was totally stunning. And those records are worth getting. But he really makes this record what it was. They came out of Long Island in New York, recorded their one album in 1971, and it got released in 1972, but well over a year after they broke up. And that's because Artie Kornfeld, who was one of the promoters for Woodstock, he was introduced to the band. He thought they were great. He signed them to his label, and then his label collapsed financially. And then Buddha picked up the album and put it out a year later after they'd already broken up. And the band was Baird Hersey on guitar, Jock Davis on bass, Kim Ornitz on vocals, and Rick Slater on drums. So classic trio with a singer, which I always love. And one of the things that makes the record great for me is it just doesn't sound like anybody else. There's something about the arrangements that are a little different. And then Baird Hersey's guitar work is just amazing. Um, there's a lot of different kinds of effects they uses really well, including wah-wah, and a lot of Hendrixing moments. And a lot of the guitars are overdubs, and it really makes the record special for me that the guitar work is so great, and that there's a lot of guitar overdubs. So definitely get a lot of great guitar work on this album. And that's what makes a lot of these 70s albums, having a killer guitar player. And the singer's okay. Kim Ornitz, definitely of that era, and kind of like the band Truck that I did a video on just recently as well. Pretty solid, gruff blues shouter, and he takes care of business all right. And he gets the job done. He's not stellar, but a lot of these bands, once you start digging into a lot of these 70s bands, a lot of times they didn't have a killer singer. They got the best they could. In this case, they snagged this guy, Kim Ornitz, and he does a good job. And I don't really have any complaints because I'm very accepting of the vocal style that was prevalent in the very early 70s. And he does a fine job, and the material's good, and he carries it off. But and the rhythm section's really excellent as well. So with records like these, I mean, those are the kind of things I ask for, whether it's Truck or Nitzinger or in this case Swamp Gas. Um, they're a great band in their own right. They just are not consummate. They didn't make it big, but it's recorded really well. The rhythm section's killer. The singer does a good job, and the guitar player is amazing. And so that's kind of what I ask for records like this. So I'll put the link below as usual and check them out. I think, as I mentioned at the beginning, I think a lot of reviewers who dismiss this record as not being that good have really missed the point. They're not hearing what I'm hearing, but I think it's a pretty great record, and I recommend it. So, Swamp Gas. Oh, I have to add too. It's kind of funny because I remember going out that day to hit some department stores and hit the cutout bins. I wasn't really finding anything that day, and then I walked by one box, and there was probably only about 100 records in it. And I flipped through it, and there was Swamp Gas, and that was the only cutout I bought that day, which was kind of unusual. But the cover looked mysterious, and there was only four guys, and I thought it's going to be something good. I never knew because I never knew what I was getting until I got it home. But I got it home, and I was very pleased. A good, solid record, and I'm glad I came across it because it's the only copy I ever saw. So Swamp Gas, check them out. I'm Brian Fox. Thanks for watching I Hate Rock Music.